Can I get a motion that the closed meeting be closed and the board certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting to which this certification applies, and only such business matters as were identified in the motion concerning the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion from Mr. Edwards, a second from Mr. Campbell. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes. At this time, if you all will please stand, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. Nichols.
Yes, sir. Mr. Honeycutt and members of the board, tonight, as always, we are looking forward to several awards to begin the program. I'm going to ask Dr. Scales if he would come up to make recognitions for Science Fair and Senior of the Month. To be joined by Ms. Height.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, our Vice Chairman, Mr. Nichols, school board members. Tonight, Dr. Scales and I have the privilege of recognizing the students who participated in the South Central Fair and who won in their categories. And these students did an outstanding job that night. But before we do this, I'd like to thank all the schools who participated in the South Central Fair, the board exhibits this year. We've heard a lot of feedback about the exhibits, and they were wonderful this year. And I want to thank all the building principals and CTE teachers and everyone who participated in that because they were outstanding. I'd also like to thank the parents of the students who were able to get these students to the program that night because it's a lot to coordinate to get them there. We had appointment times and so forth. So I'd like to thank the parents for their support with that as well. So tonight in the elementary division, our first place winner from Chase City Elementary School was Kinley Jackson. Kinley? Second place from South Hill Elementary School was Grayson Smith. Third place from Clarksville Elementary School was Ethan Taylor. In our Division 2, this is the group that is our middle school, but it also includes 9th grade. First place winner was Haley Bowen from Bluestone Middle School. Second place was Davis Bowen, Bluestone Middle School. Third place winner was a group, and it was Jaden Cundiff and Zahara King. I don't know if you're present with us tonight, but we'll make sure the school gets those certificates. And I know some of our high school people are tied up with other things tonight, but we're going to recognize them anyway. Division 3 winners were Emily Ezel and Megan Harris was first place. I don't think they're available tonight. Brianna Martin finished with second place. Deb and Gregory finished in third place. And from all of the winners, their scores are averaged together, and we had the following. Haley Bowen was the grand champion of the event that night. And the reserve grand champion was Davis Bowen. And the runners-up were Emily Ezel and Megan Harris. And again, we'd like to say thank you for participating, and again, thank you to your parents for bringing you there that night. Thank you, Mr.
The parents, if you'd like to take pictures, you can at this time.
And Dr. Scales, if we could have them please stay until after the seniors of the month are recognized, and then we'll be able to greet them, the board will be able to greet them then.
I think so.
Good job, everybody. Give them a round of applause. Board members, so glad to be here again tonight, and looking forward to do this wonderful recognition of our seniors, especially when we looking forward that we'll see these young people again in May, on May 20th right now, for the Senior of the Month banquet. So first, I'm going to start with Bluestone High School. The October Senior of the Month is Joseph Chandler Walker. Can you come up at this time? Joseph Chandler Walker is the son of Chandler and Sherry Walker of Buffalo Junction, Virginia. He's a conscientious student who always strives to do his best. Joseph is a member of the Beta Club, FCA, also known as the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and the FFA. Joseph also remains active on the Bluestone Barons baseball team, where he serves as a captain, and he is also on the golf team. He exhibits his leadership role in various extracurricular activities and maintains respect from each organization's members. Outside of school, Joseph stays busy. He's a member of the Mecklenburg High School Anglers fishing team, and he attends Gravel Hill Baptist Church in Buffalo Junction. Joseph right now plans to attend Ferrum College, where he plans to major in agri-science or environmental science. Hopefully he can come back and teach for us. Upon graduation, he would like to pursue a job as a crop insurance agent to stay involved in the agricultural field. Once again, Joseph Walker, from Bluestone High School. Next, for the Parkview Student of the Month, can I have Carson Hall to come up at this time? Wall, excuse me. Carson Wall is the October Senior of the Month from Parkview High School, is the daughter of Chuck and Donna Wall, and has a twin sister, Casey. Carson is an active student at Parkview, where she's a member of the softball team, volleyball team, Beta Club, FCA, yearbook, and the president of the Spanish Club. She pushes herself to take advanced classes and works hard in everything that she does. Carson chooses to be kind even when she thinks nobody is looking, and is always willing to help teachers and her classmates. Great, that's a great attribute. Carson spends her free time working at Parish Pumpkin Patch. She also likes staying active and competitive when it comes to sports. Again, volleyball, beach volleyball, and softball. She and her family also often participate in the Beach Olympics. Carson has been on the honor roll every year of high school and was selected second team all-district for volleyball and softball, and was honorable mention for softball. Upon graduation, she plans on going to Virginia Tech to pursue a career in physical therapy. Congratulations, Carson, for being the Dragons Student of the Month. And parents would like to take photos if you can at this time. Thank you very much.
Okay, before you all sit down, we always make it a habit to have all of the award winners line up this way so that the board can actually come down and recognize you. So we'd like the young students from the science fair winners also come up and join us up here so that the board members can come and congratulate you individually. Come right up in this area through the years, and appreciative of the chance that they take to come and work with us up here. I also have an awards to be given out tonight, and I'm going to ask Mr. Jeffers if he would come up and help me with this as I'm sitting here. Each year, the VSBA Academy Award certificates are given out at this time, and we have some winners from this year, from last year. I'd like to go through the different awards that are here. There's an Award of Achievement, which is a bronze pin, Award of Excellence, which is a silver pin, Awards of Honor with a gold pin, and Award of Distinction from VSBA with activities as school board members with a starfish pin. Tonight we have an Award of Distinction presented to Ms. Wanda Bailey for the 2018-19 school year. An Award of Recognition to Mr. Campbell. Award of Distinction given to Ms. Garner. An Award of Honor from Mr. Honeycutt. An Award of Honor for Mr. Palmer. And an Award of Recognition to Mr. Ritchie. And congratulations to all of you for your work with the board. That's all. I have mine.
Paul Nichols. This award is presented to Award of Distinction.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to items of interest for the board tonight. We have the information on the School Activity Fund Manual and supplemental appropriations that Ms. Peffer will bring to you with some action items later on. Ms. Peffer?
Good evening, board members, Mr. Nichols. You all have a copy of the Student Activity Fund Manual on board docs. There's been a few changes. Most of it's procedural, but the change on page 3 is where we added a option. If you need to carry over more than 10% of the general activity funds, you have the option to do that by filling out a form and sending it through the proper channels. The rest are procedural changes where we've added the athletic directors in the ticket sales and added the coach and teachers in some of the options that just had the sponsor instead of the coach and the teacher. But the rest is just procedural. It's all highlighted in yellow, so if there's any questions, I'll gladly answer.
Could you, Ms. Pfeffer, could you say that one about the activity funds again?
The general activity funds in the original manual, they could not carry over more than 10% of the general activity funds. That's your cash, your
Right, I get that.
general.
Okay, but they can carry more than 10% over now.
If they fill out the form and give
All
a
right. That's not the way I
reason
heard it the
why.
first time. All right, thank you.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Campbell?
Okay. Do the ag teachers like Ms. Witten have a card that they can go by feed when they need to? Or do they still have to go through the same procedure as everybody else?
They have to go through the same procedures as everybody else. They have funds that they can spend at the school level. I haven't had any requests for feed.
Well, I was just wondering if they had a card that they could just go by feed and turn in the
I'm
receipts.
not positive if Bluestone Middle School has a credit card.
Well, I was talking about the FFA or whatever she's doing to feed her animals.
That would go through the activity funds. So they'd have to follow the same procedures with a purchase order requesting the funds to do so.
And how long does that usually take?
At the school level,
Yeah.
a purchase order can be written whenever it's requested and the bookkeeper has time to do it.
Okay.
It's not a long process. I mean, I can do a PO in 15 minutes if I have to.
Okay. I was just gonna make sure that,
They're a little quicker than I am because their process is a little less involved than what mine is.
okay.
And we might, for the benefit of all, because it's been a part of the discussion, clubs, school clubs are not a part of this piece.
No, they have to follow whatever general guidelines they filled out the fundraiser form for. If it's 1 year, they have to spend it within that year. If it's 2 years, they have to spend it within the 2 years. It's not a general practice where you can do a fun activity for a 5-year fundraiser. You have to do it within the time that the kids are going to be in school and have benefit from the money that they've collected.
So-
One more question. Now that we have the animals at Bluestone Middle School, if she has to call a vet on the weekends, what would be her policy and procedure for
To
paying
call the
that?
vet and let the school know.
And then the purchase order would be done on Monday?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Ms. Pfeffer, I just wanted to make sure I understood what you said about the clubs. Again, if that money is generated for, say, a class that's in the 9th grade, I mean, before they're a senior, that money should have been spent on whatever appropriations they made
Whatever that activity.
for that event.
Yes,
So-
exactly.
So it's not a savings account?
No,
for-
it's not a savings account.
Okay, all right.
You fill out those fundraiser forms for a specific purpose, and that money has to be spent for that specific purpose, and it should be spent within that year. Some of them are 2-year carryovers. They've never applied, the 10% rule never applied to them, but there is policy in the manual that states that they have to spend that money on the activity that it was originally collected for within the time those students that collected it.
Thank you.
Mr. Honeycutt, the reason I brought that up is simply because there was one time a question about whether that money would be able, would come back, and it doesn't come back.
I do the next one.
That's right.
When we did the new bus lease last year, we applied for a federal rebate for salvaging a specific number of buses. I can't remember how many buses we salvaged. I think it was like 5. We received a rebate in the amount of $200,000, and we need that appropriated to transportation. So I am asking permission to ask the Board of Supervisors to appropriate the $200,000 to transportation.
And that will come forth as a recommendation tonight for the
That will
finance
need
for
to be
action.
acted on tonight so that I can get it to the Board of Supervisors for their November meeting.
Yes.
The student activity manual is for information only, and that you can vote on it next.
Right. Thank you. Item C on the agenda is our Mari personal learning platform. There seem to have been some questions that have come up about that, and I want to try to address those questions.
Board members, you all should have a pack of that information sitting in front of you.
Yes. As everyone is very fully aware, in the state's work towards moving from a focus on SOL testing to the profile of a Virginia graduate, we have been looking at the development of the career literacy for our students from kindergarten through 12th grade. That's included career investigation, career introductions at elementary school, career investigation of significant impact at middle school, and then career engagement, including the whole idea at the high school of students who are looking at career pathways that may not require a college degree, actually having the opportunity to do job shadowing and even apprenticeship types of programs. There has been a need among all school divisions in the state in that career, particularly the career introduction and the career engagement or the career exploration at the middle school, for there to be online options for the students to be able to follow, and the parents and the students together with counselors and others to be able to build those pathways. Over the past 3 years, we've been engaging in the idea of creating digital badges, as well as creating the system that would engage the students so that what they select through those career pathways moves into the appropriate recommendations of classes from particularly 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, but some background on those classes as well. MARI is the career pathway program, and it is a sole source program because it's the only one that we know out there that is available that can actually work with the digital badges and be a digital badge collection facility, online collection facility, as well as our career coaches and others have been using that in building the pathways. And last year in particular, we were able to actually have the data that went into that downloaded in most of the high schools and middle schools into the student information system for the development of their master schedule. And then the reporting that has to take place moving to the federal government and to the State Department of Education on the credentials that the students are earning through the CTE programs that they have in place. MARI is also available in being able to give us significant reporting on several of the software programs that we have used so that it can be a benefit for the students as they come through. You may remember that a couple of years ago we worked with Senator Ruff in getting a bill passed through the state legislature that gave the student, that identified the data from those software programs as the data that belonged to the students and could be downloaded and moved into these programs. And it is being done so in the MARI system right now, and it's the only one that has been able to work that piece out. So we've done a lot of PR on it at the beginning. We have not in as much in the last couple of years because we've been continuing to build the career pathways, the career academies, but it is becoming more and more essential for us as we move forward. And I think you've seen the memorandum of agreement and the cost that we have per student for that. And I'll be happy to answer any other questions that anybody has.
Yes. Mr. Nichols, I do have a few questions about this. Let me go back. For 2018 and 2019, according to our ADM at that time, we had 4,103 students that we were charged for $8 per student, which totaled $32,824. This year, for 2019 and 2020, we have an ADM of $39.84 at $8, and I believe it's $31,584. My question is, are elementary and secondary schools using the MARI system? If we're not, why are we paying for something that we're not using? And also, you said it's a sole source, so there are not any other companies out there. You know, if we were to do a procurement or something to advertise, this MARI is the only one that does the digital badges.
It's a digital badge collection item that it's the only one that does that.
Okay.
There are other places that build digital badges, but we have to have a place where they can be collected, like a digital backpack is what we call it, or a personal learning platform. And we've not been able to find any other programs that have that capacity to pull those programs into it,
Okay.
the digital badges into it. So that's why we looked at it as a sole source. There are other programs out there that have given the students the opportunity to go online and do some research, but not to be able to do more than doing the research and looking at helping them create a pathway. And then this is the only one we found that the pathway can actually be moved in the student information system and into this so that it can be used as, instead of the counselors having to do two actions, building it and then putting all that information into their program. And as far as the elementary students are concerned, we have been using it with them because they're doing the exploration, but many of the badges that we would be working with them to create, they are going to be primarily using it again later in middle school as they look at what they've done. Plus, there's the idea of being able to take the testing results from some of the ST Math and other things and being able to use that. And it may not have, when we've had professional development, particularly in the career area this year, I don't know that we have had as much career of the professional development with some of our teachers yet to be able to see, for them to be able to use that data. But it's there to be done, and we would look to do that.
That was another question that I had. I see that where there's some PD in here as well for 2019 and 2020. Are we doing that this year?
Some of it's already been done. There will be more to be done.
At what level is that done? Is that
Most of that has been so far at the middle and high school level.
Okay. So again, I just want to make sure I understand correctly. We are not currently using this at our elementary schools.
Now, we have data that's being collected for the elementary students right now inside the system, and will be available to them as we're able to do more professional development.
So are the children, I mean, again, K through 5, do they actually have a badge that they're using?
There are some that actually have badges from activities that they've been involved
Okay. What about at the high school?
in. We have badges that have been used in that level as well.
And again, I guess my concern is that we're paying for our entire ADM and we're not using it for our entire
Well,
system.
I think what we would have is that the whole system may not have come to the full, every student may not have been, let me see how to best put this. All students are in the process of working on the career literacy program. That's important for all of our students to build their way through, okay? And the data is being collected on all students. Testing data, everything else is being collected. We may not have come to the place yet where we are in a position for all students to have been trained how to use it or get back to their parents, but we will be, and it has to be in place for the data on them to be collected. There's artificial intelligence, there's other things that will go into that will be beneficial to them as they make their way through.
Because we started this in 2016, correct?
Yes, we have been using this for several years.
All right, another question is, we have in front of us, and this is the information I was given, a memorandum. Do we have a contract with this company?
That's the memorandum of understanding.
Okay, but it's not a contract.
Well, the memorandums serve often, a memorandum as a contract.
Okay, and so who do you implement this every year? I mean, where's this money coming from to pay this Maury system?
Well, it's funds that we have in our general instruction. It's a tool that we use like we use many other software.
So what categories does that come out of?
Instructional.
But what category out of instructional?
Well, I'd have to check specifically with Ms. Puffer.
Improve instruction.
Improved instruction.
Okay, all right. Again, it just, threw up a red flag when I saw that we were, doing this for our entire system. And again, when I've questioned some students and some parents about this, and they're not aware of the Maury system and what all it entails.
Well,
And again, we've been using it since 2016, and I just, if we're paying for something, I want to get full advantage of it, because that money doesn't come easy.
right.
So,
It may not be as obvious a program as ST Math or some of the other things that are being done, but it is a program that's going to become more and more important to us as we continue to move in the pathway of our profile of a Virginia graduate.
all right. Any other board members have any other questions?
I do.
Mr. Campbell?
I've randomly asked a bunch of kids, they have no idea what it is. So, I mean, the students aren't using it. Is that, it is on. The students aren't using it. So, I mean, who enters the elementary school level stuff?
You will remember the counselors put together a long profile at the beginning as they did their training on how career literacy, career interaction would be done at the elementary, middle, and high school. A lot of that data, as the counselors go through that, is the information that's going into the system for the students at those levels. So the counselors, and then as we do the testing data downloads into the system, and then as we work particularly at the secondary level in the career and technical education programs, and they earn their certificates, there's data that is in that piece, as the teachers certify that they have completed the CTEs that they have, that feeds into the system and is kept so that it can be reported to the federal government and to the state government.
Well, I was talking about the elementary. We don't have CTE at
No,
elementary level.
but
Because, I mean,
the,
we've got some elementary principals here, and let's just ask them if they're using it.
well, they, okay.
I mean, are y'all using it? Yes.
I think,
Puckett? So there's two out of
well,
two.
all right, we'll go back and look, and if there's nothing in there for them that we had been looking at them to do, then we'll get a refund.
I just think, I mean, it's not a whole lot of money, but I think there's probably something out there better that would benefit the kids, because the kids aren't going on it. I
Okay.
mean, that's just my opinion.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment.
Yes, sir, Mr. Edwards.
Suppose we verify this, if it's as important as it should be, that the superintendent send out an email to all the principals and initiate the use of this immediately, and then the director of secondary education and elementary education come back and report to this board every 6 months on how many children are using it and how many parents are using it, because we should be able to track that. And then after about 6 months, we can find out if it's worth the money we're paying and verify that. But that way, if we initiate it now and make sure that everybody gets an email, they're on board, and then 6 months from now, we can take a look at it, know if it's working. If it's not, we'll cancel it. If it is working, everybody will be using it. And it can be verified by our director of secondary education and our elementary director, and then we'll know something, if that's okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am,
I think that's
Ms. Bailey.
I think that's a really good idea. Also, there are things that children do that the school may not be aware of. Like if they are involved in a summer camp or a theater project or something that's not school-sponsored, they should be able to access their Amari account and put some of these things in there that the school may not be
Well, that-
connected to the school. I mean, that's the purpose of it.
That was
It's-
one of the purposes, is
it's
that the
kind of a-
informal education opportunities that students are taking advantage of so that we can have access, to know that they have.
So it's basically a personal portfolio
Right.
of their activity, both academic and outside of school. So it's a kind of like a clearinghouse, so that they can keep track
Right.
of what they're involved in. And it should be able to help them in the future develop their college applications, job applications, all those types of things. And it should be connected to their attendance record, whether they're tardy, how many days school, all that
All
stuff.
that.
I mean, that's the purpose of it.
The various
But how does
components
that
for the,
happen? Ms. Bailey? How does that happen? How does something that's not affiliated with the school, how does that get in there?
Well, again, the student, I believe, has access to their own.
well, we have
Put
to,
it back
we have to
themselves.
verify that they indeed did those activities. And that's where that's a part of the development of the program, is being able to determine through the summer camps and other things that are going on, and then whoever's in charge of those summer camps and those types of activities would be in charge of putting them in there.
And who would that person, who's the person at the school that they would contact? How would that happen?
For instance, most of the summer camps that we had last year, the community college had some, we had some through the 4-H club, others. They verify those things, and then we look to have the person put them into the system so that the digital badges are kept.
And again, yes, ma'am, Mrs.
I
Bailey.
just wanted to follow up. When we first looked at this information in June of 2016, it looks like Maury may have been thinking that we would only implement grade 5 through 12. Is
That was what it was charged
that
for the
was
first part.
initially.
Right.
And then that was changed when.
We were looking at adding the other components for the younger students, right?
So then.
Particularly after we had the law that said that the data from the ST Math and other things would be downloaded into it.
Okay. So then, but it's the same amount of money, whether it's an elementary student or a high school student?
Well,
The fee
it's-
is the same?
The fee is $8 per student charge.
Thank you.
And again, I agree with Mr. Edwards, in order for this to be successful, all of our children need to be made aware of what's going on. If they're not doing it and we're paying for something we're not implementing or not using and not taking full advantage of, I would definitely be in support of canceling it. We're getting ready to build a new school up on a hill, and we need every penny we can get. And if we're using something that we're not getting a benefit from, that I would be very much in favor of doing away with it. But again, our children need to be made aware of what's going on. Anybody else have any questions about Maury? Mr. Nichols?
Okay, I also wanted to bring to your attention a word of thanksgiving to the American Legion and various American Legions throughout the Mecklenburg County. We had last year at South Elementary School comic books related to freedom and the American flag and other items of that nature that were distributed by the American Legion to the school. And we had a question about making those available to the other schools, which they have agreed to this year. We've had conversation with Ms. Eisenhower about which grade levels got which books, and we're going to now be looking, they want to give those out to each of the appropriate grade levels for each of the others, and we appreciate that because it means very much to us. And then item E, I believe it was last month at one of our meetings, we had a vote for support of Mr. Honeycutt for VSBA nomination. We have the same tonight for Mrs. Garner, and that would be on your agenda if there were any, that is on your agenda as an action item if there would be any questions about that.
But now, Mr. Honeycutt's running for chairman, and I'm running for vice chairman.
Okay.
Two different positions.
Right. Thank you for that clarification. As far as superintendent's comments, beyond that, as you know, we have budget time going on throughout the year. I had talked with each of you about recommendations that you might make. We've had a couple that have come in. We're going to be talking with administration about recommendations for next year's budget. A primary thing, though, that I put into your agenda is last week, the State Board of Education passed a new set of standards of quality. And I want to bring that to your attention because today in the Vast Fall Conference with the legislators and with many others, that's come up as an issue that will be coming back to us as a big part of what we have to be prepared for next year. And we'll be watching as it goes through the legislature. Just as an update, the state board constitutionally has the right to pass standards of quality. There are a lot of things in there that require funding. Of course, our funding mechanisms are based on that and the standards of accreditation. And so we will have to look at this pretty carefully as we come through on it. But I did want to let you know, as the state board did that, what they have passed. The calendar committee will be meeting very soon, and we're looking forward to seeing how that comes out. That's something that if you're interested, you would be able to contact us about for those recommendations. We have, of course, gone through the process of rebidding the secondary school capital improvement or capital project. I wanted to let you know that those have gone out, and we are anticipating on November the 20th that we will have the opening of those bids as they come back in. And, of course, some of us will be in Williamsburg for VSBA, but I have made arrangements for us to be able to see through to a video what's going on here for those of us that are there that are interested in being able to watch that. We have had a response from the security grant this year. There will be more data coming in that we've just gotten that information back. A couple of our elementary schools that put in applications for Mr. Dalton put in applications for did not get funded this year. Most of the others did. We'll be going over that in some detail, but I know there was a question earlier by one of the board members about the need for safety area in South Elementary School, and we will be putting that into next year's. That was not given as an item for this year, but will be an item in for next year that we will be looking to work with. I also am very sorry to let you know that we have at Parkview Middle School The only boiler that has been working for us now has a hole in it, and we have submitted a emergency request from the Board of Supervisors to appropriate the funding to be able to replace that. We have all the data in place. It will be going in, but it's going to take a couple of weeks to be able to get the boiler in and get it in place. And so, we're going to have some cooler mornings. By the middle of the day, it'll be back up. It won't be anything more than what we had at Bluestone Middle last year, but that's what we have to go through to be able to get that. So it's being worked out at this point. And,
Mr. Nichols,
Yes, sir.
quick question, yes, sir. Weren't they doing something to expedite that, to try to get it in place?
yes, we went through the process of declaring it an emergency, which of course it is.
Right.
And it has been ordered, and it's on its way to being brought in, and it's going to be put in place. Soon as we knew we had a hole in the boiler, we started that whole process. And we've gone to the Board of Supervisors, and they've appropriated the funding for that. And beyond that, unless you have questions, that's my report for the evening.
Board members, anybody else have any other questions? If not, we're going to move into our committee reports. Anybody from the Joint Education Capital Improvement Committee have anything to report at this time?
No report at this time. We'll wait for the bids to come in.
Okay. Finance Committee report.
Finance Committee met this afternoon at 5 o'clock. We discussed the supplemental appropriations, the payment of the bills, and they'll both be recommended for approval later in the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. School Safety Committee.
No report at this time.
Gifted and Talented Special Education Committee.
Well, from Governor School, we met twice this month. We had a special meeting and a regular meeting, and Dr. Scales has some minutes if you would like to read them. As of right now, we have 185 Governor School students, 19 from Mecklenburg County, and I have them broken down if you want to know in which section. Also, I'd like to announce that we are honored to have Ms. Swain as our new Director of Governor School. We voted on her Wednesday, and she will take over the 1st of January. So, welcome to Governor School.
CTE Career and Technical Education Committee.
No report.
Athletics Committee.
No report.
Instruction Committee.
Yes, Ms. Garner and I met with Dr. Scales and all the principals after the board voted to support dual enrollment across the county, and just had a little discussion about exactly what our expectations were, and just pretty much tried to make it a little bit more clear about where we are going with dual enrollment in the county. And I think, Dr. Scales, is there anything you want to add to that?
It was a good conversation.
Dr. Scales, if you come up to the microphone, please, so we can go on the recording.
It was a good conversation that was necessary for us to have as far as getting an overview as to making sure what direction we were going. And also, it gave us a chance to discuss some of the programs that we were discussing, that was discussed that night at the meeting about some of the middle school offerings and the high school offerings. So it gave us a chance to hear everything and know what direction we can go forward with the program of studies, so that we can look at moving forward and having the program of studies finalized for next month for approval.
Thank you, Dr. Scales.
Thank you.
That's all.
At this time, we have public input. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak this evening?
Yes, we do. At this time, matters may be publicly brought to the attention of the board and administration. Public comments at board meetings are just one of many avenues for communication, and the board recognizes and appreciates the importance of input from and communication with the public we represent. The public is invited to sign up to speak. The clerk of the school board will write down your name, contact information, and the topic that you wish to speak about. The public is allowed up to 6 minutes at most meetings to express their views. Please respect that time limitation. It will be enforced. Please understand that it may not be possible to immediately respond to questions. As a reminder, it is inappropriate at public meetings to make personal attacks, to be defamatory, or to disparage individuals or identifiable groups. Again, we welcome and appreciate your input. Prior to beginning your comment, please state your name to the board.
And if I could say, as my understanding, we have right many signed up
Yes,
to
we do.
speak this evening. So again, the 6 minutes, and again, paying in mind that we will take that information, our school board clerk will take that information. We won't be answering questions, but we will get back with you. So if you all please just be mindful of the time.
Mr. Fuller?
My name is Paul Fuller. I'm a sub-driver for Mecklenburg County. And my mind reminds me that we were promised at the meeting that we had with bus drivers before we started school this year that everybody would get a salary increase. And I learned last week that the sub-drivers did not get it. And I'd like to know why.
I can respond to that we will look into that to see. I was unaware until very recently as the question came up again about that. So we will be looking into that.
Well, who makes that decision?
Well, the whole board voted for the increases, and we'll have to go back in and see how that would have been overlooked.
We're having trouble enough now getting sub-drivers, and this isn't helping none. Another thing that I want to bring up is why is it so much difference between the regular drivers' pay and the sub-drivers? There's a matter of $16 a day difference. My understanding that this thing about the sub-drivers and getting raises has happened twice that they did not get it.
We'll have to go back and look.
Right. And again, we will take your information. If you'll address the board, we will take your information, but we're not going to get into any dialect and answering questions from the podium.
Well, I want some answers.
Wait,
Because if I don't get answers, they're going to be short of another driver.
duly noted. Thank you.
Dr. Simmons?
Good evening, Board, Mr. Nichols. I was before y'all several months ago in a different capacity than I'm coming to you tonight. And the capacity I come to you tonight is as a lifelong educator who is a native of Mecklenburg County, a product of Mecklenburg County Public Schools. I hold a bachelor's degree, a bachelor's degree from Elon University, a master's and doctoral degree from University of North Carolina at Greensboro. I've been always in higher education, college work with enrollment management, which involves admissions, financial aid, and essentially retention. And recently, I believe there's been some discussion, I've been keeping up in the newspapers, about AP courses in Mecklenburg County. And I'm not sure that everybody understands the import and importance of AP courses to our students. So what's the difference between AP courses and dual enrollment? You both get college credit. The major difference is that AP courses are essentially nationally normed. And what that means is it takes the students from here and compares them to students across the nation. Why is that important? That's important when a student is seeking admissions to a highly competitive institution that's competitive in an academic sense. An institution can look at AP scores and compare them across various schools. Different schools have different levels of rigor that you will find within the dual enrollment program. And I'm not trying to disparage the dual enrollment program because both of my children, who are graduates of the Mecklenburg County Public School System, were involved in dual enrollment. So dual enrollment is a great thing. But AP provides an edge that is not present in dual enrollment for students seeking admission to competitive institutions such as University of Virginia, Virginia Tech, William & Murray, and I can name institutions all over the country. I've been involved in the admissions work. I've been a vice president for enrollment, assistant vice president for enrollment services at Virginia Commonwealth University, and at Elon, I was associate coordinator of admissions and financial aid. So I've been in the admissions seat. And when you're looking at a student, where you have two students that look exactly alike on paper with the courses they've had and everything, when you drill down and see that they've had competitive AP courses and they have passing scores, what the institution themselves considers as a passing score on the AP test, that can provide a substantial edge to that student gaining admission to those competitive institutions. So I really think we need to consider that very carefully and allow both AP courses and dual enrollment within the county. Since there's not time for questions, I will respect my 6 minutes and yield my extra time to whomever is next. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Morris?
Good evening, Board. My name is Ashley Morris. I'm a DE history instructor at Parkview High School. I'm speaking to you today from multiple perspectives. As a concerned citizen, as a certified dual enrollment instructor, a trained AP teacher, and an alumnus of Parkview High School. As a citizen, I am concerned that state policy is not being followed. According to Virginia Administrative Code, the development process for the school division's local plan for the education of the gifted shall include opportunities for public review of the school's division plan. I firmly believe that the decision made on Friday, September 20th of 2019 to discontinue the AP program did not allow sufficient time for public review of the opportunities offered to our gifted student population. I therefore propose an appropriate length of time for the allowance of such and my own public input as follows. As a DE and AP instructor, I cannot stress enough the importance of maintaining an AP program. Students in an AP course are required to master skills that are not limited to passing an AP exam. These skills, especially analytical thinking and writing, will transfer to any other academic course at any worldwide university. Success in any AP course is an internationally recognized distinction. In my 6 years of experience with our community college system, it has rarely evaluated its DE instructors or their students' outcomes. And it has only bothered with professional development when it was time to renew their accreditation with the Southern Association of Colleges. Furthermore, neither Southside nor Mecklenburg County has been willing to offer financial aid to teachers pursuing the necessary graduate hours for certification in DE instruction. However, Mecklenburg did approve the very appropriate and meaningful training for AP for at least 6 teachers this past summer at cost. As an instructor, I must also caution the board to consider context when examining only quantitative data from the previous year of the AP program. The end results did not contain any qualitative information or growth studies. And as we know from our long and arduous experience with standardized testing, a score of 1, 3, or 5 does not always demonstrate the amount of learning or growth that actually occurred in the classroom. As a 2005 graduate of Parkview High School, I entered Virginia Tech with 44 transferred dual enrollment credits. Not quite enough for an associate's degree, but enough to place me at a marked disadvantage in my cohort. The only skill that DE classes had afforded me was how to write a literary research paper. They did not teach me how to study or how to analyze and evaluate information. Due to the high amount of credits that I entered with, I was forced to choose and settle with a major within my first year or face additional years and additional amounts of credit
to balance out the university's required 36 hours in the 7 areas of the Pathways Concepts curriculum. Despite my weighted 4.03 GPA, I could not handle a maximum course load or many of the rigorous assignments until well into my 3rd year. I was eventually successful, but many of my former students that have graduated with associate's degrees did not make it that far. Our students' realization that academic life is actually challenging and that they must change their habits and attitudes should not be taking place for the first time away from their homes and support systems. It should begin with rigorous pre-AP honors courses. Then when they reach authentic AP courses in 11th and 12th grade, college courses beyond, they will be better prepared. Advanced placement courses guarantee the rigor needed to be successful in the university setting without unnecessarily forcing a student's premature decision about a major or career choice. With AP, students are given the experience of a challenging curriculum and are therefore better prepared for the college courses of their own choosing. Please do not take opportunities to succeed away from our students. Given the chance to develop that only time can provide, our AP program will be an invaluable benefit to our gifted learning community. And I have copies for your later perusal.
Thank you.
Mrs. Ritchie?
May I give my copies ahead of time? Yes, ma'am. Okay. There's no test on this, so I want you to feel relieved. One is my writing, and the other are samples from course catalogs and test questions. My name is Kimberly Ritchie. I'm an English teacher at Parkview High School. I want to thank you for this opportunity. I understand you can't have questions, but I know that all of us here would like to answer any questions you have. As a teacher who's taught both AP, Language and Composition, and DE English, I can confidently say that there is a place for both programs in MCPS. While the need for the rigor is important, it is imperative that the curriculum college-bound students receive is aligned with the demands of college entrance exams and college-level coursework. And that's important because we have a wide audience of students, and not all of those students that take DE are planning to go to a 4-year school after high school. So knowing our audience and its purpose is important. And I apologize. Talking to teenagers is easy. Talking to a school board, not so much. So. Of the 2 programs, AP is by far the course that prepares students for the SAT and college-level coursework because it is aligned with the types of questions students will see on the SAT. And you will see questions in that packet from the PSAT. And if you have juniors that just took that, or you know of juniors that just took that PSAT, and you'll also take AP Lang, ask them if they saw any correlation, and I hope that you will hear yes. English 111 and 112 does not have a standardized test that drives instruction. Instead, it allows students to improve their writing and research skills in a course that is most commonly known as the freshman composition course, and it does a wonderful job of doing just that. The text that students read in 111 and 112 does not compare to the text that AP Lang students are required to read and analyze. And if you're unaware, English 111 is a course within the first 9 weeks. English 112 is a course within the second 9 weeks. And when Mr. Palmer was principal, English 111 was a whole semester course. English 112, a second semester course. Very different. I'm including the course descriptions of English 111 and 112 and AP Language and Composition as stated in the VCCS course catalog and College Board course description. It is clear from the descriptions that the courses are very different. While English 111 and 112 is a rigorous writing course, it does not allow for the same level of critical reading because of the allotted time for the course. English 111 is completed within 9 weeks and 112 completed in 9 weeks. Just a few short years ago, 111 was taught in a semester, allowed for more instruction of difficult reading using the Dolphin Reader, if you were familiar with that. Southside no longer suggests that text for us in English 111 and 112, and the textbook that is there, well, really our students are above that textbook. The desire to have high school students complete an associate's degree while simultaneously earning a high school diploma has created a lack of solid preparation for the sake of a shortcut. However, the full-year AP classes have allowed students to work steadily and purposely through content that has been developed and tested for several decades by college professors. We know we can't create the perfect question. That's why they have professionals that create SAT questions. And we are allowed to use this AP curriculum to help prepare our students, those that plan to go to a four-year school after college or after high school. In short, English 111 and 112 is a strong honors course, while the AP courses are a perfect match for students planning to attend a four-year school right after high school. As a parent of 3 children, I'll let you read that part. Teaching isn't just teaching those that I don't know. I teach my children's friends. I teach my friends' children. I enjoy being a teacher. I want them to be successful. DE does make them successful, but so can AP. And there is a learning curve that happens in the first few weeks of that AP class because it is so very different than anything they've had before. They need to be prepared if they're going to go on to college, but they also need to be given the tools for the age that they are. Some kids may be 16 physically and 18 mentally and emotionally, and we adapt for them. Some kids are 16 physically, but academically are 12, and we adjust for that as well. We have a wide audience of learners. It is our job as trained teachers, DE, AP, general, special ed, to adapt to those learners. And I would hope that the board would hear our voice as trained professionals, that we do know what we're doing. I realize everyone in this room has gone to school, but it's very different to be a teacher. I have a bathroom in my house, but I don't claim to be a plumber in any way, shape, or form. And I would like just to reiterate the professionalism that goes into planning, teaching, assessing, and guiding these students we take as our own children. So the packet that I included are handouts for course planning that other counties use. That when Ms. Bailey made that comment that we need the preparation and foundation, we surely do. We as teachers would like to be a part of that because we see it in the classroom. I'll leave it right there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Fenwick?
So I would like to point out that I'm a math teacher and I'm following an English teacher. Don't hold me. Mr. Nichols, Mr. Vice Chairman, and school board members, my name is Sarah Fenwick, and even though I'm a transplant from across the river, my children are here in Mecklenburg County. I have one son who graduated and 2 more who are currently in school here. I'd like to thank all of you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here to share my experiences and opinions regarding AP classes. It's not my intention to diminish the importance of DE classes, but to be a supporter of giving our students their best chance at success. If we're going to be successful as an education system, we have to offer our students every class to which we have access. AP and DE courses are not mutually exclusive. There's no rule that says we cannot offer both. Currently, the county is dealing with a shortage of teachers who have the proper credentials to teach DE courses. I do not have a master's degree, therefore I am not eligible to teach DE. As a matter of fact, at the moment, I have neither the funding or time in my schedule to obtain such a degree. However, I know my material, and I am perfectly capable of teaching the courses. My point is that we should use the teachers that we have to teach classes that will help our students. In the past several years, we've turned so much of our focus to gap groups, IEP students, 504 students, and at-risk students that our advanced students often fall through the cracks. Often classes have students with so many different skill levels that teachers are glad to have some advanced students who don't require as much attention. When this happens, those smart students full of potential are not challenged as they should be. All of our students are equally important, and we should be doing everything in our power to help them thrive. In our first year offering AP statistics, which I taught this past year, 75% of the students in my class scored 3 or higher, compared to 59% at the state level and 59.7% globally, scoring 3 or higher. On the multiple choice section, our students scored above state and global level on 2 out of 5 strands. And on the free response section, they scored above state and global level on an amazing 4 out of 6 strands. The students with a score of 3 each received 3 credit hours in their college, which counted as, for one, Statistics 3203 and another Statistics 1450, required courses for them. One student with a score of 4 received also 3 credit hours, which counted as her required Statistics and Operations Research 155 course, which sounds a little scary to me. Even the student who scored a 1 took with her valuable information that will help her be successful in her future math classes. It would be a shame to lose a class that was so beneficial to the students willing to put in the hard work, especially considering that statistics is not offered as a DE class. It's not offered as any class. This is the only format we've had it in. And I will say, I started with 8 children in that class and ended with 4, because 4 of them were not willing to put in the hard work. But the ones who went the distance really went the distance. In closing, if we truly wish to act in the best interest of all of our students, we will use the resources that we have to give them every opportunity that we can. We have teachers who are willing and able to put in the time and effort to teach AP classes and students who want to take the classes. Please consider putting these classes back into our program of studies. Thank you for your time. And if you look, I've included my AP score reports as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Nash?
Hope you can hear me. Good evening. My name is Tracy Nash. I am an English teacher at Parkview High School. I am here because the decisions concerning the DE and AP programs directly affect me. I teach DE Humanities, DE 12th grade British Literature, and AP Literature and Composition. I firmly believe that both programs have a place in Mecklenburg County Public Schools. However, I think each program fits a particular student, and we need to understand the important details of each program before making rash decisions. Tonight, I would like to advocate for Mecklenburg County Public Schools to keep AP classes. I would also like to emphasize that we all have a shared commonality. We all care about the future of Mecklenburg County Public Schools and the students, faculty, and families that are here. I teach my students that good discourse is necessary for progress, and I hope that in speaking today, we can start the dialogue for a productive solution. First, offering AP classes creates equality across the district. The number of students and qualified teachers might fluctuate year to year, but we will always be able to offer AP classes. For those of you that don't know, a teacher does not have to have a master's degree to teach AP courses, so this would certainly provide equality with both schools. If right now we choose to only support DE programs, do we have all the possible DE positions filled? What about if someone leaves? Have we thought about offering a compensation to help alleviate costs for teachers to gain DE credentials? We need to make sure that before we dismiss the AP program, that the solution is not to overwork DE teachers we already have by video Skyping lessons from one high school to another, or to frantically try and find DE teachers to fill vacancies last minute. Second, I think there was a lot of miscommunication about the AP program. A successful AP program works in partnership with a vertical team. We have no pre-AP classes before students get to these AP courses. We are expecting success and comparable scores to schools that have strong programs and courses of planning. We need to give AP more time. An AP course tests skills and critical thinking at a more rigorous level. These are testable skills and units that have been developed by input from colleges and universities across the United States. By being a part of an AP program, we also get prompts, progress check software, and even access to a community forum for other AP teachers to share. My job as a DE and advanced placement teacher is to prepare students for the rigors of a job or college environment where critical thinking is tested. I believe an AP environment meets the call more effectively. I also know firsthand the rigor of an advanced placement program because I'm the product of one. I can attest that it was an extremely tough but rewarding experience. I definitely felt prepared for college at Virginia Tech because a true AP course puts the responsibility on the students to be successful. Lastly, before you decide to dismiss the AP program, please take into consideration the amount of time and effort we teachers have put into preparing this new course load. I ask you all, how can anyone be successful in a job that keeps changing? I know we can do something truly amazing with AP. We just need more time and consistency to do it. Thank you.
Mr. Newcomb?
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, Mr. Nichols, I'm Kevin Newton, right here, born and raised in Mecklenburg County. My youngest daughter is a student athlete, Bluestone High School. I've recently run into some concerns. I noticed that the varsity softball coaching position was advertised on the MCPS website. My concern here is, what is policy and procedure when going about, even thinking about replacing a position such as this? Do we not notify the current coach in this situation? You know, in any job, any profession, I don't see the fairness in that. To proceed, I'd like to say a few words about Coach Brown. I've been around softball and sports my whole life. What this lady done with this group of girls last year, not only on the field in the game of softball, but also with the game of life. There are a lot of life lessons taught through sports. And I'm here to tell you, this young lady done a wonderful job. I just find it sad that she would have to deal with such as this. You know, at first I asked myself, I said, aren't there enough problems within the school system without wasting time and resources on an issue that's not a problem, to my knowledge? Well, after I attended last month's meeting, I got my answer. There are enough problems. You know, I just don't know where this come from. I know there's been one very vocal set of parents, but I'm here to tell you, all due respect, these parents are not happy anywhere they go. Sadly enough. It's just the bottom line. I'm not speaking bad, I'm just speaking the truth. Also, I know it was mentioned that no JV program has been made in the last 2 years, I think. I'd like to touch on that a little bit, and I'd also like to make a recommendation that maybe our ADs between not only Bluestone, but throughout the county, our ADs at the high school and the middle school level, be a little more persuasive in pushing these programs. When I come through school 50 years ago, you couldn't play sports in middle school till you were at 8th grade level. This changed, I'm thinking, maybe 10 years ago, roundabout. Well, that's for a reason. It's to build your program. And the JV program hadn't been making the last couple of years because these kids at the 8th grade level have been persuaded to stay. And, I mean, it hurts the program all across the board. And I'd like to see the ADs take more action, more influence on how that is handled. Because as a parent, my daughter is a sophomore now, but she come through the middle school. In all honesty, they've had a really good team at that middle school for several years. But I'm here to tell you, when you got a predominantly 8th grade, a team made predominantly of 8th graders, and as a parent, it's pretty embarrassing to sit there and watch 20-0, 18-0, because you're playing kids that are 6th and 7th graders, mostly. Mr. Nichols, at the last meeting last month, you spoke of rigor in your curriculum. It's no different here on the sports field, whether it's softball, football, whatever. Some of these kids have dreams, ambitions of playing ball beyond the high school level. They need that rigor. And what I was just speaking of does not offer it. They need to be pushed to a point, the same as they do academically. It's not happening. It's unfair. It's made this program look bad. I would like to see it addressed. And I'm speaking on the rigor, again, what Ms. Brown does with these kids. And hey, I don't think I missed a game. I support all the athletics at Bluestone, but specifically the ones my daughter plays, she provides that rigor. And some people may not like to work so hard. That's life in general, you know? You're not going to get anywhere half-stepping. This lady provides it all. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Whittington?
Good evening, I'm Brad Whittington. I'm here to hopefully shed some light on the subject of softball coach at Bluestone High School. For the past 2 years, Coach Brown has had to jump through a bunch of hoops and try to keep the job as softball coach at Bluestone High School. This has happened for several reasons, and none of which have anything to do with Coach Brown's performance or achievements. To some of y'all, this may be a surprise, but mainly because of some buddy-buddy between some board member and one wanting the job. The other reason was an upset mom that thought Coach Brown was too hard on her kid, where in fact Coach Brown encourages these girls to strive for their highest individual potential, both academically and physically. Coach Brown is a teacher, an algebra teacher. The website asks for a sign-on bonus of $5,000 for math teachers, and we're trying to get rid of her. Last meeting, y'all were also asking for teachers for the DE and AP program, and she's a teacher. She drives on her dime to tutor kids in this community, helping both the kids and the parents. Her job should never have been advertised, especially without notification to her. I know two of the applicants. One is not even a resident of Mecklenburg County, much less a teacher and employee of Mecklenburg. How does this happen? The second one is on the buddy-buddy system. Should have been dismissed from his position back in the spring after a formal complaint about social media was made to Nan Alga. He was not dismissed because it was said that the content was not inappropriate and there was no investigation. However, at that time, there was supposed to be a social media policy created for Mecklenburg County schools, in which to date has not been done, and the buddy-buddy system is still trying to get this one hired. This individual single-handedly shut down Chase City Dixie Ball, and it hasn't reopened. Walked out on Clarksville Dixie Ball as president this year, one phone call and no resignation letter, several days before an all-star program. There were two programs. The third is the Bluestone High School JV softball. Was unable to have a team because of social media comments and contacts between him players and himself, and girls moving up, trying to keep girls from moving up they should have to support Coach Brown in the high school program. Instead, it's made her look bad and him look good, and win a middle school championship that Stevie Wonder could have won. Also, I got a copy here of the Bluestone Coach's Handbook, and Section 3 right here says, support all athletic programs offered by Bluestone Middle and Bluestone High School and develop a rapport with fellow coaches of all levels, including working with those who coach at the high school equivalent. This requires building a sense of trust and loyalty with school administration and fellow coaches. And number 24 right here says, monitor use of cell phones, inappropriate media, or negatively towards a coach or teammate or teams will result in disciplinary action. I cannot believe this person was allowed to continue coaching after all this, and that the buddy-buddy system has created another opportunity not only to lose a great teacher and coach that Mecklenburg County desperately needs, but continue to allow someone who has closed programs down, tried to ruin Bluestone High School program, to be a leader and a coach of these young girls who are so easily influenced. What kind of leader and coach is this? What are we teaching them? Your job is never safe. Even if you're doing a great job, the buddy-buddy system will get you somewhere. It's okay to make others look bad. This is not what's best for the girls in the program. If it was, we wouldn't be here now. Ultimately, the decision is up to this board. But if we all hope that Mecklenburg County Schools would not hire someone because a parent was unhappy, or worse, hire someone on a buddy-buddy system after a teacher, a coach, a leader in Mecklenburg County Schools on and off the field in this community, enhancing these young ladies both physically and mentally and leading them by good examples. In closing, what do Bluestone softball, Mecklenburg County Schools have to lose? If you make the wrong decision and don't rehire Coach Brown, with your support and leave her alone to do the great things she can do with these young ladies, you stand to lose the softball program at Bluestone High School. You'll lose a great teacher and a coach. You'll have more battles about backstabbing and buddy-buddy issues and social media problems. You'll also lose several girls who love to play and want to play and will take their talents elsewhere, possibly away from Mecklenburg County Schools altogether. Lastly, if Coach Brown is not your choice this evening, I would hope you all would table your decision and revisit it at the next meeting, because after all is presented here this evening in favor of Coach Brown and reasons given, others should not even have had an opportunity to apply, including policies and disciplinary action that have not been written or implemented. I'm sure the rest of Mecklenburg County Schools community, parents, grandparents, etc., will be ringing the phones of all of you after the newspaper article that will follow. So I ask you now to lead by example. Do what is right. Rehire Coach Brown. Support her in overcoming the adversity of some trying to ruin her and the program for their own personal gain, and leave her to do her job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mole?
Vice Chairman Honeycutt, Mr. Nichols, school board members, I'm kind of going off of the cuff here in support of Shelby Brown. My daughter Hannah has been very active in softball. Wanda knows very well. Her daughter's played with me. I've coached local teams in the county. Hannah's been playing since she was 8 years old. We've played under a lot of coaches. When she made it to the high school level, she actually moved up into 8th grade to play on the JV program. I give it to Roy Moore and working with the middle school on keeping that program going, because if Hannah and another player hadn't have moved up, they wouldn't have had a JV program that year. Shelby, too, has tried to do that since she's been varsity coach at the high school. It's been a misinformation, and we've heard comments about it not being a JV program since Shelby's been varsity coach at the program. That's not all of her doing. As you've heard before, it's been an opportunity that we could have moved players up that were very capable of not only playing at the next level, but definitely keeping the JV program alive, that did not move up because of actions that were taken at the middle school. Hannah played under her for the last couple years that she played ball until she graduated last year, and I'll be the first to tell you that the first year that Hannah played under Shelby, it wasn't another parent out there that probably butted heads with Shelby as much as I did. But Shelby was young, out of college. She played college ball. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. And I will say over the last couple years that Hannah played, in her senior year, not only did Hannah and Coach Brown become good friends, but we did as well. I commended Coach Brown for what she did with these kids. And like you've heard from some others tonight, not just on the field, but it's things that's happened off of the field that she's done for these kids. And Hannah today loves her to death. When we had the banquet this year, it was kind of, she took a different route in holding the banquet for softball away from the school. I heard it was negative comments around that. We offered her a location that was actually, that I was in charge of. That was a community center / Hun Club, a nice location. She wanted to do that for the kids. And everybody, all the parents showed up. Actually, Mr. Nichols came by and gave a nice speech, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. And not just a great banquet, but she recognized every kid that played on the softball team that year. Everybody got an award, and it was well deserved. With that being said, one of my biggest concerns goes back to what Kevin was talking about, was the way this was handled. You know, it's one thing if you get a new principal and a new athletic director to come to school, to take over a school. If that's standard policy that the school board issues out and all schools follow, then that's perfectly fine. That once a new principal and a new athletic director comes to a school, that all jobs are posted for, then I have no argument with that if that's being done everywhere. The argument and the concern that I had was this happened and the posting was posted before Coach Brown was ever notified that her job was being posted for. That shouldn't have happened. That's something that slipped through the cracks. It should have never happened. She found out by a parent seeing that posting and giving her a call and asking her what was going on because they were concerned because their kids were looking forward to playing with her this year. So that was the biggest concern that I had, and that's one thing that I want to take away from tonight, and I ask that the school board look into. I do think it should be some type of standard procedures that's followed when this happens, because I'm not sure of the buddy-buddy system and what goes on with school board members and principals and coaches. I have heard things that it's been influenced from school board members to athletic programs. That shouldn't happen either, unless that too is standard procedures that goes on with the school board. So in ending, I just ask that it be looked into, and I hope on whatever the decision is on coaching personnel, that Coach Brown is given the opportunity to keep her job, because it's nothing that she's done in that position that should warrant anything different. Actually, if you look at her record, you base your judgment off of statistics and records. She's turned that program around. We had a winning season last year. My daughter was able to play her senior year as co-captain of the school ball team, and we went 2 games into district play. That hasn't happened in Bluestone in a long time. And we actually beat Goochland this year, which I don't think that's actually happened in a very long time as well. So she's doing a lot of good things. So I ask that you consider everything that I told you tonight, and I really appreciate y'all giving me the time to come and talk to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Brinkley?
Board members and Mr. Nichols, I thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'll just tell you now, I'm not here tonight to speak for the Board of Supervisors of any way in the form. But as president of the Lake Country Crushers Girls Softball Organization, also I'm here to be a very strong supporter of Shelby Brown. I've been a part of this organization for over 15 years. The purpose of our organization was to give as many of our local young girls ages 8 to 18 the opportunity to help develop their softball skills so that our local high schools could compete at a very high level. Over the last 8 years, we have gotten there. With the help of the Crushers players, and during this time, Parkview has played in 2 state semifinals, and last year went to the state finals. Bluestone just this past year was 1 game away from doing the same with a very young team and a good coach. Shelby is one of the girls that came through our Crusher organization and had a very successful high school softball career along with a college softball career playing softball. I've had a great opportunity of being able to coach Shelby with the Crushers and at high school too, and coached against her while I was helping coach at Parkview High School. Shelby is a very good coach, but even a butter young lady. She will be a good coach to these young ladies, but a mentor to them also. I know she has reached out to some of these kids to help them with their work, school work, even after hours. To have a good coach, a good sports program, you need coaches to have longevity. Give Shelby the opportunity to build a program, and I stress that again. Give her the opportunity to build a program. Also, I would ask you to get behind her and support her for many years to come. There's a lot of very good young talent in this program today, with a lot more on the way. Let's don't waste it. These kids deserve Shelby Brown as their coach. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's everyone.
All right, moving into action items. Can I have a motion that the school board approve the minutes of the regular school board meeting held on September 16th, 2019?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Mrs. Garner, a second from Mr. Palmer. Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Abstain.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes. Can I get a motion that the school board approve the minutes of the special school board meeting held on September 20th, 2019?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion from Mr. Ritchie and a second from Mr. Edwards. Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Abstain.
Mr. Campbell?
Abstain.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes. Can, Mr. Edwards?
The Finance Committee met, and we recommend that we pay the bills tonight.
We have a recommendation from our finance chairman that we pay the bills. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
The Finance Committee also recommends that we approve the supplemental appropriations that we asked for.
We have a motion that we accept the appropriations that Mrs. Peffer brought to the finance and to the board this evening. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes. Can I get a motion that the school board approves the personnel recommendations?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Ritchie, a second from Mr. Edwards. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes, with exception.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes. If you'll skip line item F, and we'll move to the 2019-2020 overnight field trips for Parkview High School and Bluestone Middle School. Can I get a motion that the school board approves this overnight field trip for Parkview and for Bluestone Middle School?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion from Mrs. Bailey, a second from Mrs. Garner. Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes. Can I get a motion that the school board approves nominating Mrs. Dora Garner for the VSBA Southern Regional Chair?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Edwards, a second from Mr. Palmer.
The motion should read vice chair.
I'm sorry, it does. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. Vice Chairman, just so the minutes will reflect that. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes. Under reminders, we have coming up on the 23rd Parent-Teacher Conference at our elementary schools from 4:15 to 6:30 p.m. The 24th, we have Parent-Teacher Conference at our middle schools from 4:15 until 6:30 p.m. Also, big day, November the 5th, Election Day, Professional Development Day. Schools are closed for students. And then also the 27th through the 29th of November we'll be observing Thanksgiving holiday, and our schools will be closed. At this time, we're going to come to board member remarks, and Mrs. Bailey, we'll start with you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Honeycutt. I'd just like to thank all the folks who came for public input tonight, those that spoke in support of our athletic personnel, certainly our bus drivers, and we're going to look into that situation there. And especially like to thank our teachers from Parkview who came and spoke on behalf of AP. And you bring a special expertise to this debate. I'd just like to remind everyone that the reason that we had an issue to talk about was because it seemed as though academic opportunities did not match at Bluestone and at Parkview. And as the board looked into personnel and the courses that were being offered, we just felt like at this time, at this particular time, that in order to try to offer equitable course offerings, it would be best to concentrate on one delivery method. you know, that's the direction that the board went in at this point. I understand all of what you said tonight, and I thank you for making all those points. And it's certainly, it's a discussion worth having. And all of our children are not the same, and they all have different needs. And so my hope would be that any child who would want to take something beyond regular English would have an opportunity to do that. And we, as a division, we do have to make the most of the personnel that we have and provide those opportunities for all of our students. And I don't think, you know, all of you are from Parkview, and I thank you for doing that. And they're the students that you serve, and I get that. But we have another high school that they're not getting all of those opportunities. And as a board, we serve all of our students. So I thank you again for coming, and we heard you. And I know it's important for us to try to offer these opportunities. But I think it's even more important that we offer everyone in the county those same advanced opportunities. And I think it's really important that we start this type of instruction, AP instruction has to start before 11th grade. We have to prepare them for that type of rigor, and to just throw them into it and be surprised when they score a 1, we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be surprised. So we have to prepare them better. And you're right, that the communication with our customers, our students, and their families has to be very crystal clear as to what they're getting into and what the expectations are and what kind of fruit they should harvest from that type of activity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Mr. Campbell?
No comment.
Thank you. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I took a little bit of a different route when it came to the AP. Being an old ex-principal, I felt the need to vote in favor of keeping the AP. In fact, I think I was the only one. I was the lone wolf. But I did not feel bad because I stood on my own feet and made my own decisions. My son teach AP English at Loudoun County High School, one of the high schools there, because there are quite few, as you know. And I got a chance to call him and ask him, how did he feel about AP? AP is a very important course. So is dual enrollment. But I didn't want to step on one course to pull another up. So what I'd like to see is that we fight to get both, because I don't want to use my phrase again, step on one to get another. I think my opinion is no thinking to it. My feelings is that we need to have AP as well as dual enrollment. And that's my feelings. I appreciate you all coming tonight, as well as those that came for the young lady coaching ball. Again, I have walked down that hill many a times at Bluestone High School to watch my kids play ball. And it's something that parents, students, and all take a lot of pride in. In fact, I had a chance to go out and coach a little ball. Coaching is very important. So I'll just end it by saying, going back to my original part, I support the AP classes and will always. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Mr. Edwards?
I'll leave thanking all of you alone. You did a good job, everybody. I'd like to say one thing. I'd like for all of you to say a prayer for all the contractors and for everybody that's going to build on this new school, and for the Board of Supervisors that have been taxed with a budget that's $34 million over, and we're all caught in a catch-22. So if you'll all say a prayer, maybe we'll get some help from above to try to get these prices down and come in so we can get this school started and stop playing this game, because we're all ready to go forward. We just got to find the money, and hopefully it's in the savings from a few other contractors. I know I talked to some contractors today, and I think there's 2 or 3 additional that are going to bid on the school. So when we get competition, I think we're going to see a savings, and we'll get back to reality. But thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Ms. Garner?
Well, I'd like to congratulate a team that doesn't get much recognition because they don't, I guess, play around here, and that's a fishing team. They were exceptional this weekend. I went over, and just watching the kids, the small kids come in with the large kids, how proud their fish were, even the ones that came in with 1 fish. We had 2 junior teams that placed and 2 senior teams. And both junior and senior had the largest fish, so they did well. Second, I'd like to say I am all for AP. I'm not against it. I want to see it come to the county. But at the present time, the reason why the situation came up is that Bluestone High School kids were being shortchanged. And they were not given opportunities and that kids at Parkview were given. I'm all for starting AP in the new school. That way, students, as everybody says, start young, get them prepared to go into AP classes, even start next year in the lower classes and work toward it. But don't give the students at one school a chance to do either or, and the ones at the other end of the county only this. Same opportunities. So I'm not totally against AP. I'd love to see it come to the county. And I think we will get it back, and I think we will excel in this. So, and I thank you for coming and expressing your opinions.
Thank you, Ms. Garner. Mr. Ritchie?
Yeah, I'd just like to suggest that in light of all the speakers we had tonight, that maybe the gifted committee meet and see if there's any kind of recommendation we can make to the board. You know, we can't do anything on our own, just as one board member can't do anything on his or her own. But we can make a recommendation to the board of maybe some sort of compromise we can come up with in light of everything we've heard tonight. And also, maybe the athletic committee needs to meet, and that's my fault that hadn't happened yet. And we should review the maybe the hiring policies so we can clarify what exactly the hiring policies are for these coaches' positions, because there seems to be a lot of confusion about that.
Mr. Ritchie, could you remind us of who was on those committees?
Yes, I can. Me, me and.
On which ones? Name them.
Gifted committee is Wanda Bailey and Brent Ritchie. Athletic committee, it's Dora Garner, Wanda Bailey, and Brent Ritchie. So the athletic committee is a little harder to get together because it's 3 people, so it has to have public notice, but the gifted committee can get together pretty easily. And at least come up with some recommendations in light of everything we've heard tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, I just want to piggyback off of a few things in closing. Most importantly, as you heard Paul bring up earlier, is we already have an issue at Parkview Middle School. We don't have any heat for our children, and it's getting cold. And this is a longevity of not taking care of our buildings like we should, and our children are at a disadvantage because of this. So thank goodness that you all expedited that, and hopefully it won't get so cold before we can get that installed. Also, our new construction bids are out there. I was the lone wolf that voted not to rebid it, but the majority rules. So with that being said, I do pray that we get good news back from those vendors or those construction firms that will be submitting bids, and we'll open those bids on November the 20th. And I also want to thank, first of all, the teachers that came out this evening. I hope I didn't send out a bad signal, and I can only speak for myself, by doing away with AP. It's not that I want to do away with AP. I am very much in favor for having both. But it was my belief at the time that we need to get one thing done and do it right before we move on to something else. And I believe we also set our students up for a very big disadvantage by throwing them into this on an 11th or 12th grade level. I believe that we need to start prepping our children for AP, for that rigor in the 7th or 8th grade, not when they're juniors and seniors in high school getting ready to go off to college. So that's why I voted to continue with the dual enrollment, but it is my prayer that when we consolidate our school system and we're all under one roof, where we have equity for all of our children, every student has the same opportunity to succeed, that AP will very well take place. But in order to make that happen, we have to be under one umbrella. We can't stretch out our arms and hold two umbrellas at the same time and hope that maybe some of the children get wet, some of the other ones do or don't. That's not equity in all of our children. So no, I did not vote to do away with AP. I voted to table AP until we got a hold of our dual enrollment, and then once we get in our new school, then we will combine those things together and move forward and hope and pray that it will be a success. But I do appreciate you all coming out. For those who came out in support of our softball programs, and again, for all of our programs, I wish nothing but the best in all of our sports, academics as well. I think we have a lot to be proud of here in Mecklenburg County. We're doing great things, and it's a team effort. Not one of us can make anything happen on our own. I can rest assured that's one thing I've learned. But I do appreciate everybody coming out this evening, and if no one has anything else, I'll make a
Motion to go home.
to adjourn.
Oh, to adjourn.
There you go. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.